Gradually appearing. There we go. Hi to the Facebook world. So it's day 2 of the 5-day focus on sensible self-care. And for those of you who are just joining, this is 5 days of sort of the different elements of really useful, practical self-care to support you, to support your small business. Originally, we designed this for movement teachers and realized as we went that, in fact, this applies to body workers and artisans and hairstylists and pretty much anybody who's working with, hi Lauren, hi Karen, working with individual clients. Nancy, darling. And so today we're talking about money. So yesterday, the replays are up on both Facebook and Instagram. We talked about scheduling and how to make your schedule work for you rather than you working for your schedule, and that there are boundaries involved in that. And then today we're going to talk about money, because I know one of the challenges to managing your schedule is the fact that if you manage your schedule to make sure that you have enough time off and that you are batching your clients in ways that really work for you, and maybe that means you don't have all the clients that you used to have, then you don't have as much money. So we need to make sure that you're working appropriate amounts for your kind of energetic levels, and that you're making enough money to sustain your business. So somebody who can't come today sent in a really fantastic question. She said, Nancy wants to be in the video. That's okay. No, I think we're going to leave you where you are. You're in the background. We're good. We're good. So the question was, when she started teaching online during the pandemic. So we're really focusing on how we can use these self-care strategies to improve coming out of the pandemic, right? So this is a great question. This happened for a lot of movement people. We went online and nobody knew this was going to go on for 1.5 years. So people dropped their rates for offering online classes for a variety of reasons. There were lots of places offering movement stuff for free. And so there was kind of a feeling that, oh, well, we need to cut our rates down to compete with these free or $5 classes. There was a sense that being not live was somehow less than, that the clients were getting a lesser experience. Well, 1.5 years down the road, we've realized that that's not the case, that lots of people are actually choosing to stay online. So her question was, what do I do going forward? I can't afford to maintain these low rates. I need to raise my rates. It's going to be a bit of a jump. And what do I do? And September feels like a good time to do that she would be going to a hybrid model where some stuff would be online, some stuff would be in person. So this is an excellent, excellent question. Yes, you need to raise your rates. Yes, the rates that you apply to teaching online need to reflect your time and your expertise. Regardless of whether you're there in person or not, it's still your time. It's an hour is still an hour, and you are still as much of an expert online as you are in person. And in fact, you might even be offering, people are getting really good at teaching online. So maybe you are an excellent online teacher and it's actually sort of an elite offering your online stuff. There's a convenience factor. People can be paying for the convenience of working out in their pajamas, right? There's lots of stuff that's incredibly beneficial about the online offering, and it doesn't need to necessarily be discounted. That said, if there's a big jump, and if you've acquired a lot of new clients at this very low rate in your online offerings over the last 1.5 years, and you want to bring those rates up to your in-person rates as you offer both things at the same time, and it feels like, wow, that's like a $10 a class jump or a $20 a class jump, that is a significant lift. So I think there are a couple of things to take into account here. One is you want to check in with other people in your geographical area and see what the going rates are locally. Are you pretty much on par with those rates, or are you significantly above or below? That helps to give you a sense. You want to check in with other people of your level of experience and expertise. If you've been teaching for 2 years, you're probably not going to be charging as much as the person who's been teaching for 20 years. But that said, you shouldn't be charging, $8 an hour, because there is this sense of we do want to have a ballpark that clients can assume is kind of the going rate. And there's some flexibility in there, but it's not helpful to your peers if you're undercutting a rate by 80%. And this is partly what happened when we went online, right? It was really difficult when people were offering classes for free or for $5. Those of us this is our living, we're making our living doing this. That's not sustainable. And we've seen some of that with going back in person, right? Some jurisdictions are offering, classes in the park for free or for $5 as we can move back in person. And that's really difficult for the professionals who are making a living. So this is a thing to keep in mind. So you want to start with that. What is the going rate for your geographical location? What is the going rate for your level of expertise? What is the going rate for what you're offering online? So this takes a little bit of time. You have to kind of dig in and say, all right, I'm going to spend an hour or so looking through all this stuff and see what other people, hi there, see what other people, hello, see what other people are offering. And that helps you to sort it out. So then you decide, okay, I'm going to charge X amount for my private sessions. I'm going to charge X amount for single drop-ins this month for my pre-registered session or my 10-class pass, or however you format your offerings. And it's going to be going up. So now what do? I think the best strategy, so one of the things that Linda was saying is, is September a good time to be doing this raise in rates? And yes, it is a good time in the sense of it's a fresh start time, but it's pretty close in terms of time. When I'm doing a rate hike, especially if it's going to be a big one, I did a huge rate hike a few years ago because of things that we can talk about another time. But I gave 3 months notice before I did it so that people had time. And I gave people, I sort of scaled it to the clients that I've had for, 20 years who were still paying a very low rate, to new clients where the rate hike was going to be less significant. Gave some people 3 months notice, gave some people 2 months notice. And I let them buy packages at their existing rate as a kind of thank you for being a loyal customer and client. Thank you for trusting me with being your movement person. The rate is going to go up to this, but as your kind of gift for being part of my team already, you can buy as many packages at this going rate as you want. Once that's expired, then you're at the new rate. And that seemed to work really well. I didn't get pushback. I did have a couple of people, it was my private rates that I was raising, and I did have a couple of people who could no longer afford the service. And so we worked with that, and we worked with, one person she brought her sister and she went to semi-private sessions. Some people decided they were going to go to classes, and that's what I was sort of trying to do, was I was trying to direct more people into classes because I couldn't keep working as many hours of privates as I wanted. So crafting an email that is sensitive to the fact that it's a change, but that also holds the boundaries that you need to be paid for your time and your effort and your expertise. If you're not a writer, it can be a bit of a challenge. I was thinking one of the things that I could offer up as a freebie for you guys is a couple of templates for rate changes. So if that would be interesting to you, just let me know in the comments below and I'll put that together for you and I can send it out later. So that shift from the very low cost online classes, yes, it needs to be addressed. And I think most clients are going to understand that. And you can be really transparent in your communication with them. We thought this was going to be a short-term thing, and I wanted to support people being home for, a few weeks. I can't build a business model on this. And as we go forward, I need to change to that. And I think most people are really going to understand that. The other time that you want to raise your rates is when you haven't done it in a really long time. I don't know if you've noticed that if you rent a studio or an apartment or a house, your rent goes up every year. Cost of living, there's an inflation rate, everything goes up. Cost of food goes up. You know, this is a reality of life, is that costs increase. And if you haven't been increasing your costs, you are effectively decreasing your rate of pay every year relative to how much the cost of your insurance increases, and the cost of your rent increases, and the cost of your stuff that you buy increases, and the cost of your booking system. Like, things don't stay static in terms of what they cost. And if you're not also increasing your rates, you are effectively paying yourself less. And if you have a regular small incremental increase, that's way easier on you and your clients than it is to have to do a really big hike. So that's something else to take a look at. Have you not raised your rates in 6 years? It's probably time to do that. And you can do that in a few different ways. You can just do a cost of living, and you can just tell people, 2 months in advance of January that, well, my rates will be going up. The estimation is cost of living is going to be increasing 1.5% or going up 1.5%. That will end up with your rate being a very uneven number, because it'll end up being, like $97.32. And then the next year it's going to be $97.99, whatever. It's going to flex it. So some people like to have a round number, in which case you do your rate hike every 2 or 3 years, so that you're just kind of going up to the next convenient number. And again, you give people lots of notice that this is what's going to happen, and you tell them, I raise my rates to match the cost of living, and I do it every 3 years. This is coming up this year. You can anticipate that the rates will stay the same for the next 3 years, and then they know what to expect. Offering and meeting expectations is a fantastic way to help your clients adapt and adjust when you change your rates. So that's not a pandemic thing. That's just how to maintain a really good, healthy way of making sure that you get paid long term. Boundaries come up again, and boundaries are big with money. I'm going to include some links below once I'm done, because I don't happen to have them on hand. Brooke Gordon and I did a Money Matters webinar, free webinar, a couple of months ago. I'm going to include a link to that for anybody who kind of struggles with the money part, anybody who struggles with how to manage and organize money, anybody who struggles with what's the important parts of managing the financial part of your business. Brooke just offered a million fantastic resources. So I'll put the link to that below once we're done in a little bit. Because managing your money is part of running a small business, regardless of whether you're a movement teacher or a hairstylist or a nail technician or an osteopath. You need to make sure that you understand how your money flows. It's a really important component to your work. So I will add that in. The other place that boundaries come up here is beyond charging what you're worth, which can be difficult and challenging for lots of people. There's also little stuff like charge for late cancellations. If somebody is regularly canceling late, have a clear policy that you can direct to. Put it on your website. Make sure that it is clear somewhere on your website or in your bio profile on social media or wherever you want it, so that you can just point to that. I'm sorry, in our terms and conditions that you agreed to when we took you on as a client, there is a charge for late cancellations. You can be flexible about it. If somebody calls to say last minute their kid is really sick, then of course you have the power to be flexible. But if you have a policy and a statement, it's easier to hold that boundary. Charging for travel time. This hasn't really been an issue when we've been teaching online, and our travel time has been, from the kitchen to the office. But once we go back in person, if you're going to people's homes, or you're going to meet them in the park, or you're going to somewhere, build getting paid for your travel time into your fee. And that can be an add-on, or it can be built into the fee, whichever works better for you. But again, having a little elevator speech for that is useful and important, so that you can just say it and feel good about it and feel smooth about it as you go. The other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly in terms of money is the exchange of money for time, right? If you are always teaching and you're teaching live or you're teaching your class or you're teaching online, whatever it is, your hour of time is worth this much money, then you can only earn as much money as you have time that you're prepared to teach. So I think it's incredibly smart to add a digital course to your offerings. And it doesn't have to be a big, long 6-week event. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but creating something that you really like to teach and that you think your clients would really enjoy and find useful. It could be like a little, I'm building this later on this year, a little bundle of like a little hips, shoulders, core series that has some skills building, some strength, some stretch, some release. It'll be maybe an hour and a half total. A little half hour here, half hour here, half hour here. Won't be expensive, but it will be available all the time so that that's in the background. And maybe I get to make money while I'm asleep. It's not a lot, but it's just a little something. So if you are even the slightest bit comfortable on camera, I would suggest starting to ask your clients and your customers and your students, what would you really love to have access to as an online tool? So for movement teachers, it's going to be a movement thing. But maybe if you are, maybe it's a hand care, you're a nail technician, it's a hand care program that involves your favorite products and your favorite strategies for doing a really good manicure. Maybe you're an osteopath and you want to offer some self-care, self-massage strategies and some, sort of some basic anatomy that deals with a particular issue. There's, if you have a particular specialty, you offer something on feet or pelvic floor. This is something that some of the people in the Roadmap teachers program earlier on this year did, and like knocked it out of the park. And then you just have that, and it lives there again on your website or on your social media bio. And it means that you're not always exchanging time for money. It's a real kind of growth option for you. So that's what I have to say. Oh, and if you are not super comfy on camera, but you'd kind of like to be, I have a thing for you. So there's a little link coming up in the comments on Facebook. And no. Now you get to watch me like looking directly in. There we go. And there it is on Instagram. It's a little half-hour kind of series of things that you can use to get more comfortable on camera if that's something that you would like to try, is this adding a small digital option. So do you have any questions? Has anybody got a question that I haven't addressed or something that I said that made you go, I really wonder about that? All right. I will post the replays on both Instagram and Facebook. And so if you come up with questions later, pop them into the comments. I will always be happy to go in and track stuff down. And if you're watching this on the replay later, same thing for you. If you have a question, pop it into the comments and I will be checking in later today. Thanks for coming and have a wonderful day, and head out and feel confident and good and valid and honored and worth being paid for your time and your expertise. Bye. All the button pushing now. I can't push the button on my computer. I always want to. See ya.